I just want to see this defense take some steps, right? Gain some confidence, build some momentum. I do think it was very interesting though that confidence came from them doing a complete 180.
Mm.
Let me read this number off to you. The Cowboys have played on Sunday a season high 47% man coverage, a season high blitz rate 30 plus percent. We'll get the official number here in a second. That equaled a season high in pass breakups. To I think about that for a second. There was a statistic that came out. Diggs and Bland, who lead their team in interceptions and pass breakups over the last like 4 years, had zero,
Mm-hmm.
right? Zero. And all of a sudden, 47% man, heat the quarterback up a little bit more, 5 pass breakups, a pick 6 returns, you get 4 sacks. It looked like a defense to me that started to mirror the aggressiveness of your offense, which is something that, we talked about this behind the scenes and I mentioned it on my show. I just didn't think those two things added up. And let me ask you this question. It came out on the broadcast, and Schotty kind of hinted at that in the press conferences. He was in the defensive meetings this week. I don't think this is a coincidence. I don't think this is just Flus waking up and saying, you know what, I'm going to change up who I've been. I think Schotty went in that room and said, hey, dog, we got to do a little bit more X, Y, Z. And Flus said, okay. And credit to both of those men. Flus could have been stubborn, and this is just my opinion. Flus could have been stubborn and said no. Schotty could have been stubborn and said, you got the defense, I got the offense. I think this is I got to give a hat tip to Schotty, a hat tip to Flus for working together here, and a hat tip to the players for not quitting on him.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's why I said we got a head coach,
Mm-hmm.
because I do think he started seeing one of my biggest concerns, and I know that's been one of your concerns, is the locker room.
Yeah.
And keeping this locker room together and keeping them from starting to point fingers, given how unbalanced that you were just talking about, Sky, it is on the defensive to offensive side of the ball. And for Shotty to go in there, for Eberflus to be open, like you talked about, Sky, for him to be, and I think his time as an advisor on the defensive side and stuff is why he is comfortable being able to do that. And so I really feel like him doing that made all of the difference this week. And shout out to Flus for adjusting. I mean, you talking about
Yes.
we got to see, I mean, they played cover 1, cover 3. Dallas coming into this game only 14 times this season had 5 defensive linemen on the field. We saw that change. They loaded the box. They had some dime packages with Marquise Bell and Elijah Clark.
Three safeties was out there at one
Yeah,
point.
3 safeties. And I wanted to add this because Christy Scales, again, if you ain't watching Girls Talk, dropped a huge nugget on our show this morning saying that they've been wanting to do that dime package with Marquise Bell on some of these third downs for some time now, for a couple weeks now, but they haven't had the opportunity because Dallas has not been able to. They haven't really been getting teams in third down situations enough. So this is something that I think can be implemented more frequently with Marquise Bell. And I like the way that he played this week as well.
Yeah, it was just pleasant to see that we made a legitimate attempt. Not, I know he mentioned subtle, talking about Flus, and this wasn't subtle. I don't think this was subtle. I think this, 3 sacks came when you played man coverage. You know what I mean? You sent 5 guys more. Now he didn't get crazy and send 6 or engage 8. Fire Z, cover Z. Like, nah, he didn't do all that. But just you see what happens when you send one extra guy more often than not. You see what happens when you get a little bit, you mix it up a bit. You see what happens when you look. Let's be honest. You leaned into the strengths of your scheme. You leaned into the strengths of your personnel, and no bigger tell that something was about to change to me, than the beginning of the game. I don't know if it was Christy. I think it might have been Christy.
It was Christy
dropped this and said the starters are going to be Deron Bland in the slot, Bridges on the outside, and Elam. And I looked around. I'm like, wait, because Reddy Stewart is your best zone guy, but Deron Bland. Look, I know a lot of people slot boundaries, whatever, but we know in the slot and man, he's had great success.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, I think we're about to see more man. I didn't know how much more. I didn't know it was going to be 50-50 basically. That was a big tell right there. And that was, let's just keep it a bean. That was him either listen to the players or listen to the coach. I don't know which one because, I'm not going to get into the TMZ aspect of Trayvon Diggs yet. I do think there's a conversation that could be had, although I'll be quick here. They did come out and say, there's no smoking gun, is what Coach or what Jerry said. So they're expecting him back next week, which is interesting because I didn't think that was the case. But either way, he was very vocal. Very vocal, I think, behind the scenes, very vocal in front of the cameras about playing more man, about what it's like that these guys heating them up. It makes it better, but don't let it get twisted here. The players in that locker room also, I think, wanted to do this, and you heard Deron Bland say after the game, we like man. I'm a cover guy, and I like to play man. He said that.
Yeah.
So hopefully Flus continues to lean into what these guys do best, and you mix it up a little bit. That's all. Because you just got to give your guys a fighting chance with the way your offense is playing. Just give them a fighting chance. Have you fallen and gotten injured at work? You should probably call a lawyer.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan.
Morgan & 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 Morgan.
Did you know that your injury could be worth millions of dollars? Morgan & Morgan is the largest injury law firm in America, and they've recovered over $25 billion for their clients.
$25 billion? That's a hell of a lot of money.
If the insurance companies tried to lowball you, Morgan & Morgan is able to take the pain and suffering and turn it into cold, hard cash. But wait. How much is Morgan & Morgan going to cost you? You never owe them legal fees unless they're successful.
That's right. You don't owe unless you win.
And if you don't know how to hire a lawyer and it sounds too hard, it's actually super easy. You can just go to their website, and then in a couple clicks, you can find out if you have a case. You can literally do it from your smartphone. And remember, there's only one Morgan & Morgan.
Wait, there's more than one because... Let me see the script. Oh, last name. Oh, okay, roll it.
You can start your claim today by going to forthepeople.com/Skywalker. The link in the description.
Yeah, and you talked about mixing it up. That's the big part of it is doing, and I think you working off of the matchup. What does the matchup call for? This matchup in particular, you know that this team is probably going to try to lean on the run. So you load the box. And then you also know once you got ahead, you put them in a position to where they have to pass. That's when you can throw more guys in coverage. That's when you got and what Dallas said and what Eberflus said is, hey, we know that these guys are down some receivers. So you're gonna have to beat them on your own. Also, too, when you look at Washington, even when their starters were in, Jaden Daniels struggles. He's not as efficient against men coverage. So this is something that worked off of the mass matchup, which is what I've been looking for in general. If you're going up against a team that struggles in one area, let's try to attack it. Yep. And that's what Dallas decided to do.
And look, Brady said something very interesting, and it sounds like, just basic football. But think about what man can do for you. It makes it tougher on the quarterback to have to fit it right there. Now, sometimes you can be wide open, like we've seen in this game. Guys drop the ball.
There was some
in zone and man. It happened. However, there were times, definitely, I think it was the first 3rd and 3. There was good coverage. I want to say McCaffrey across screaming across the field. I think Bland was on him. And that required a good throw and a good catch, and neither happened. It requires you to have to thread it a little bit more than throwing it in these wide open zones that the Cowboys have been given. So again, he said something very basic, but when you have guys that feel more comfortable doing it, I know the counterpoint is, well, Sky, when they played man this year, they weren't great. Yeah, when you only play man 4 times a game and it's 91% zone, usually 4 times you might not be great if you play man 50% of the time. But what about the other 20 plays, right? So let these guys get in the groove and with something that they're comfortable with. So it was nice to see that flip. Again, 5 pass breakups. The pick 6 king returns for Deron Bland. We'll get to that in a second. Funny thing about the linebacker play, real quick on James, on Shamar James. We kind of talked about how he looked, man. Shamar James, Maris Leofau. These guys are going to make mistakes because they're still figuring out as young kids, but these guys are going to make plays. What do you know? The 2 plays made this year by linebackers have been Shamar James sack fumble, recovery, Cowboys. Maris Leofau punch out fumble, recovery, Cowboys. Interesting too.
Yeah, I mean, also too, Sky, coach called them out for not being physical enough, and they were physical in this game. they were hitting. I mean, clearly, you know, we don't want to see anybody get injured, but most of these guys, when they were tackling, they were thudding out there as well. So I feel like the physicality of the defense took an uptick. The speed of the defense took an uptick. They felt more certain about their keys and what it was that they were supposed to be doing. Obviously, there were some, you know, miscommunications on the back end, but you essentially have two guys playing back there that haven't, you know, even been getting reps like that. I mean, Triquez Bridges, this was his first time starting, and he's going from 0 to 100. I believe that Christy said he played 80% of the snaps on defense. So you're gonna have some of those miscommunications and stuff sometimes, but I do think until those guys get comfortable. But no, I agree. I felt like they came out with some intensity. They forced a punt to start the game, and it really just kind of set the tone. Also, special teams as well.
Brandon Aubrey, the goddamn goat.